All right. So yesterday I went over and drove approximately an hour to go and pick up this quad. I purchased it for $200. It caught my attention because the owner said it had some electrical issues that he could not get it started. I looked at it, it had really good tires. These are not the original ones, but they're still really new. So I was like, okay, that looks good. I checked out the oil, it looks good. I checked the shifting. Right now is a neutral, and it all looked good. It did not come with a battery, so as I looked in there, it had no battery, and it had a bunch of electrical wires just hanging out like this. So he also did not have the key for it. So looks like a bunch of wiring problems. So I'm going to be kind of troubleshooting through that, and hopefully I can get this quad up and running. I do have some parts on hand. I do have the key, a new key switch. I have a cover for the chain because it is currently not installed on this one. I do have a stator in case the electrical doesn't work or it's not charging. And I do have a CDI ready to go. So I had several parts on hand for this kinds of problems. So we'll give it a shot and see if we can get the squad running. So I'll be showing you close by here. Came with one. This is a new start switch here, and then this is the old one, and still hanging with the wires all cut. And then I notice the wire that goes to the starter is kind of like cut in half and then put back together. So I'm gonna have to fix that. There is no battery in here. The fuel looks okay, but I do see some rust in there. Can't really see it from there, but I can see the hole where it goes out. But there's no, the fuel will clean at least. So I'll have to change the fuel filter. The previous owner did say he changed the fuel lines. But then there's the fuel filter. It looks somewhat clear, but not entirely. And then it goes through the little valve here to close it up now. I don't know where the choke is on, but that's that. And it goes back here. This is kind of not even doing anything. This little clamp all loose. But the carb looks decent. He said it was new, but I'm not sure about that. Then if you come back here, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to fix this, but just have the actual cover for the chain sprocket. And then I noticed like here's where one of the bolts goes in, right there. And then the other one that's back here is clogged. So I'm not sure if it's another screw or some dirt in there. So I have to figure that part out. Aside from that, let's see if the brakes work. So I'm gonna push it forward. All right, yep, brakes are working. Let's try the pedal. Oh, yep. So at least that's good. Seat looks pretty decent. It's got a little wrinkle here, but no big deal. And back here looks pretty good. Everything is as it should be. So at first I was concerned it might have been crashed because it didn't look aligned perfectly, but I just asked them to send me some more pictures and it looks pretty straight. The only thing I did notice is this plastic, which is very common on these. It's cracked right there and cracked down here. So that's not good. If it said what year this was. So that's there, but it says manufactured, but it doesn't say the year. Just from the looks, it looks like a 2020 or so. If I later find out what year it is, I'll let you know. Aside from that, everything else, it's got little LED lights, so on there, so that's pretty good. Oh, it did came with the remote kill switch, so I'm gonna see if I can get this working later on. All right, so I'm gonna start off and see how we can fix this bike. Alrighty, so right here I have these two wires. I'm gonna start off with this group here. That way I can later test the battery. I don't want to start plugging the battery and have all these loose wires and stuff, so I'll cut these ends real quick. Put a heat shrink in. Seemed like somebody, I'm not sure what they were trying to do here, but alright, so it's kind of a mechanical fit here. I warmed this up really good. A little bit of smoke coming out. That. I was kind of, before it to pull down, kind of bend it opposite of the direction of the heat here. The shrink comes above. It's kind of warm, so gotta be careful with that. Okay, that's good there. Got this kind of wire just hanging out here. I'm just gonna cut it off real quick. That's looking good. And next I'm gonna fix these two. This is the old switch, but I still want to be able to test it out, just in case. Sometimes the wiring is different for each switch, so I want to make sure that in the event the other one doesn't work, I can still perhaps try to save this one. So it just saves cost. So I'll peel this back in. I'm gonna grab a little bit of a heat shrink and we're gonna fix this one. Alright, here we go. there's that. There's that. So now I'm going to do the same thing as before. Put it like that. Boom, there it is. Alright, that's done. There's some interesting tape going on here. This is coming from the stator. So let's see what kind of mess we can find here. This doesn't seem right. Uh-oh. Okay, look at this. This is bad. So it's not good. Well, at least they're color matched. But if they're touching like this, is never going to turn on. So I don't know why they're even disconnecting over here and stuff. If you can't do this one, nothing else is going to work. So I'm going to have to disconnect this and knock this out. I'm going to basically do the same thing to all of these wires. Alright, at this point we got all these done correctly, and we're going to plug this back in here. They were color matched, but some of them were touching against each other, so you don't want that. It's gonna interrupt pretty much a short, and you're not gonna give your quad what it needs. So this time I think this side is pretty much, I mean, I'll tuck this in later, but all this is pretty much done. I do have to check the fuse in here to make sure it's not blown, but I'm pretty sure it is. And then I guess I'm gonna plug in the switch, the ignition switch. This one right about here comes down to here. I'm gonna plug it in, and then I'm going to remove the key switch and replace it with a new one because I don't have the key for that one. All right, so right now I temporarily put a key switch on there. The colors seem to match, but the colors are a mismatch, but they're not even exactly the same color. So I have to be really careful on that because that could cause fire. Then if you come down this way, I have plugged all the stator wires correctly and fixed the wire going to the starter. I have plugged in the negative and the positive side of the battery, and I'm going to test it out. I have to be really careful with these because this could actually cause fire. So that's one of the things you got to consider here. Also, I'm testing out the new switch, the old switch currently, to see if this was actually bad. I mean, I could actually test it without doing this, but just a quick test. Sometimes things will work and I don't need to start troubleshooting or anything. So yeah, let's try it out, see what happens. All right, I'm gonna put the here. Hopefully this doesn't catch on fire. Okay, that was weird. I turned it on and the alarm went off. Cool. That is very weird. Let me test this out. So I got the remote control switch here. Let me unlock this. See it. Okay, now it's off. That is very annoying. Okay, let's see if the rear brake lights. Alright, cool. So I do have a light here for it's currently on neutral, and once I press brake, I do have a light on the back. So it looks like that's functioning. The remote is definitely functioning. Scared, kind of startled me a little bit because I never actually seen that before. So now that we've fixed all the electrical issues, let's see if it'll crank over, and then we'll test for spark, because I think that's going to be the main issue here. So it is now in neutral. I have the brakes are on, and okay, I am not getting anything. Got brakes on. Let me try this brake, and I am getting nothing on the starter. Okay, so I'm gonna shut the battery off, and then I'm gonna test the switch here, see what it's doing. But I know I have the key now, have power, and everything seems to be working out. The only other thing could be the star solenoid, but I'll check that out, see if that works. All right, so all I'm doing for the switch is I opened it up, and if you see, the yellow and gray are for the kill switch, and then the remainder two colors, just not yellow and gray, it's gonna be blue and kind of a brown or orangish color. So that's going to be the actual one for the starter. So all I'm going to do is grab a multimeter real quick and do a continuity test, see if the switch is bad. If not, then I'm thinking it's going to be my solenoid. Alright, so I have here, I did a continuity test and the kill switch did pass. However, the starter switch did not. I can see in here that it's not making contact, or I can't really see it, but in there, this little plate needs to contact, and it's not making contact on there. So after time, they wear out. So there is a way to fix this, and it's not too hard. So I'm going to fix this, and then so I can keep the other switch for myself. It shouldn't be a big deal. You just remove this and slide a few things out, and then pretty much extrude that little piece that's inside there to fix it. Alrighty, so I just discovered that the ignition, the starter switch, let me turn my multimeter off, that my starter switch is not working. This will be this red one. In color it is I think orange and blue, and they're right here. So I'm going to attempt to fix this switch so I don't have to buy a new one. So there's a little, see here, there's a little Phillips head screw, so you're going to remove that. Alright, so here's a little washer, and here's a little Phillips screw. Alright, that's now removed. Now here, there's going to be a little pin. So if you look closely, there's going to be a little rotating pin. This is where the switch hinges upon. So you're going to take that out. So for that, you can need a set of probably needle nose pliers or something close. Alright, here it is. So I got alright, here's the little pin. You're gonna put that down. Make sure not to lose all this stuff. Now be careful here, because as soon as the switch comes out, there's a little spring too. It's spring loaded. So the switch should come out now. All right, there it is. It's coming out. Okay, there it is. All right. Okay, so there's the spring. So take the spring out. Okay, and there's like a little this point right here. This is what. All right, so what you're basically gonna do is pull this little piece out. There we go, just like that. Okay, the switch. So what we're gonna try to do is, this over time wears out. As you can tell, it has a little. It's really hard to see with the camera, but it has a little flat spot on the top. So that's pretty much has worn over time, is now not making contact. So this little thing is not making contact with the plate right there out of copper. So we got to clean this little thing here with a little bit of sandpaper, and then we got to protrude this piece out and put it back in. So hopefully that should work. To clean the plate, what I do is I grab a little bit of like a cotton swab, and I use a little bit of a carb cleaner. And I spray it on the not that much. I didn't know it was so pressured. But yeah, just give it a little bit. Then come back here and kind of clean the plate around a little bit. There we go. And clean this little plate out. Okay, wow, now it looks way better than what it used to. So okay, so that part is good. So now let's protrude this piece out. Alright, so now I'm working on the other piece. What I've done is I have laid it on its side right there. That's the inside. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab this little screw here, screwdriver. It's very small, and I'm gonna hit this side with a hammer so I can protrude the top piece right there, so it protrudes out a little more and is able to make contact since it has flattened out. That's literally all I'm doing. Alright, I did protrude it. It went a little more than I thought. Be careful not to hit it too hard, but I don't know if you can actually see that or not, but it is protruding way more than what it used to be. So now I'm going to grab this little piece here, and I'm going to center it up like it used to be. Okay, there it is. We have the thin end of the spring. It should go right over it, like so. Okay. Now, we're gonna now put it in the slot. So, I think the way I've done it is I kind of slide it in from one side to the other. Because the design is meant to lock from one side. Okay, and now that the switch is in, as you can tell, now I gotta put the slide pin in there. So make sure it's centered. Kind of work it in there. Come on. Find the soft spot in there. And give it a little bit of lube there, because it is kind of rusty. I didn't really clean it out. So let me have really bad lighting here. So, and my eyesight's not the best now. So okay, cool, we got it in. All right, now so the pin is now in there, as you can see it. Now I'm going to put the washer in place and the screw. All right, there it is. Cool, so I'm gonna lock this up. And let's test it out before we actually put it onto the ATV. I'm gonna try to keep that other new switch for myself so I could reuse it in a different bike. So now I'm gonna grab my multimeter, I'm gonna put it in the continuity test. Should make a noise when I touch. There it is. There's contact. So now we said it was orange and blue, so I'm going to grab there's those two. So I'm going to put it on those two slots there. Let's see if it works. There it is, it's working. Cool. And that's how pretty much you fix that. Now we're going to turn it off to off. And we're going to go and put this on. Alright, I have installed the switch back onto here. Now I'm going to test to see if it works, if it's the switch or if it's the solenoid. So for now, I'm going to turn the key on. There it is. Just the alarm. Alright, it's neutral and it's good to go. It's on run, and we'll see if it cranks over. Let's see. Alright, let's press it. Alright, it does crank over. So before we do anything else, I want to check for spark. So let's turn this back off. I don't really like the whole alarm sound of this thing. It's definitely annoying. Let me remove this here, and we're going to take this spark plug off. Alright, so the key is on. Let's see if it has spark. I am pressing the brake. I'll press the bottom brake as well, just so we can see what's going on. Alright, as you can see, there is. Cool. Alright, let's turn this off. Shut the key off, and let's put this spark plug back on there. My spark plug is back in there. That spark plug was a little unusual, maybe overkill, in my opinion. I don't like when people just swap stuff like that. Right, it's tight now, and it's back on. Let's see if we can turn the fuel. Come around, turn the fuel on, see if it will leak or whatnot. The fuel is currently off, so we're gonna turn it on, and we're gonna put the choke on real quick. All right, so choke is on, fuel is on. I'm not too trusty of these hoses, nor this valve. These fail all the time. So I haven't even checked for fuel flow yet. So let's see if it runs like that. And if not, then we'll change the carburetor and change the hoses out. I don't want to mess too much with that. All right, that is on. Brake is pressed. Oop, I forgot to turn the key on. I just don't like the annoying alarm sound that it makes. There it is. It's mainly for security for kids. I suppose the parent was like, I don't want my kid to get on the bike without me knowing, which makes sense. All right, so there it is. It is, brakes are on the front, brakes are in the back with my boot on, and I'm gonna try and attempt to start it. Nothing. I'm gonna give it a little bit of throttle here. Nothing. And last time. Whoa, it started. Okay, so let me do it one more time and then I'll turn the choke off and it should run. Oh wow, okay. It ran now, so let me come back around and put the choke off. There it is, choke is off. A lot of people get these bikes and just drain the battery trying to start it in without even using the choke. Then blame it on the bike. All right, here, let's try this again. All right, turn again. All right, let's cycle this through. Okay, I'm not going to attempt that. I think it's getting poor fuel flow at the carburetor, but it does start and does run, so I'm going to assume that part. So the other issue I'm running up with right now is that this wire, even though I already fixed the key, is too short and it won't reach from the other side where it's supposed to go. So I'm going to have to make an extension for this so it reaches that side. I gotta replace this cover because it looks, I'm sure you can tell, it's all scratched up, it looks bad. And put the cover back in there, as well as I think replacing the batteries, because, not the batteries, I'm sorry, the carburetor, because it seems like it's not getting fuel, I think, because it gets it for a little bit and then it goes away. So something is up there. Cool. All right. Let's keep working this. And as usual, the fuel filter is backwards again. So I'm definitely going to have to undo that line and then replace that. So, and we'll check fuel flow. Alright, so I got this quad running now. The main issue was wiring. All the wiring in the stator portion was undone. I pretty much fixed that. The wire that goes from the solenoid to the starter was also cut, so I replaced that. Fixed that up. The other thing was the filter was backwards, so I placed it on the correct way. Now I'm actually getting good fuel flow. I'm gonna give this a wash. It's pretty dirty, but other than that, what else was another issue with this one? Oh, it was leaking oil from this little part here. So all I did is take off the screws from the other side and replace the seal on this, and replace the seal on. So I took 1, 2, and 3 bolts out, replace the seal underneath this here, and then as well as the seal on the other side, and pretty much sealed it correctly. Now it stopped leaking oil. There's another issue I had with it. Aside from that, she is running fine. Everything works, so I'm gonna give it a wash, and I'm pretty much done with this quad.